MJ, Kobe, Dwayne Wade, Eric Thomas, Michael Phelps. These are all people who are or were operating at a very high level. They're known as some of the greats. What they did was they followed consistency. Every day they were working out. Every day they were shooting shots. I don't know necessarily about how often Michael Phelps will train, but it shows that he is consistent in what he does. He trains regularly. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Success Spectrum podcast, where we dive deep into the world of finance, entrepreneurship, and personal development. I'm your host, Kadeem McLean, and today I want to start off with a bit of a story. When I was younger, I used to get up at 4:30 in the morning, do my prayer, brush my teeth, of course, drink my water, go on a walk to the gym, work out, come back home, and jot down any ideas that came to me, or read my book, or do both, depending on how much time I had left and how long my gym session was. Then, of course, I would shower and go to work, and it helped me to get through the day with a bit of ease, because I got myself together in the morning, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and then I was able to deal with the other pressures of the day and the pressures of work, right? And someone recently, I got back onto that same train, I'll say. So I've been waking up at 5 a.m. more recently, and it's been helping me. But the reason I bring that up is because yesterday was a bit of a struggle for me. Today's Sunday, so Saturday was a bit of a struggle for me. I woke up at 5 a.m. and immediately my excuses that I had came to mind. Because for weeks now, it's been a bit difficult, let's say. But this past week in particular, I was going to bed late and I was waking up early. Now, I wasn't up fooling around watching shows or anything. I was up working. But nonetheless, I was going to bed late and I was waking up early. So on this particular Saturday, I said to myself, I woke up, thoughts started coming to me. Well, it's Saturday. You can sleep in. You don't really start. You don't have your first meeting until about 9 a.m. And you can relax. You can go back to sleep. And as I'm there trying to fight my thoughts, the next thing I know, I'm waking up at 5:10, 5:15. And because I fell back asleep, so I woke right back up, got out of bed, and hit the ground running. Now, the reason I bring that up is because, of course, once those thoughts come in, like I've said on a previous episode, it's up to us to kind of shut those down and just hit the ground running. But that leads me into my first point, because if I didn't get up, I would not be able to accomplish everything I needed to accomplish before my first meeting for that day, right? Now, that leads me to my first point, which is the fact that winning and consistency, they don't care about our feelings. But before I really dive into that, I want to first define a little bit what consistency is. Because some of us might just think consistency is repetition. That is not the case. Because you can repeat certain actions that are bringing you absolutely no results. You can repeat certain actions that are negative, let's say. They're bringing you negative results. That's not the point of this. Consistency is something that's going to bring you positive results as long as you stick to it, right? So an example of consistency would be if you have a business or you're in sales or you've had a job in sales before, you know there's something called the law of averages. You make 10 calls, and for every 10 calls, you might get 3 people that say yes, depending on your closing rate, right? You might get 6 people that say yes. So consistency says, I'm going to make 10 calls a day. I'm going to make 20 calls a day. You stay consistent in those actions. And of course, every call you make, you should be getting better. But you're refining your skill and you're making those calls, staying consistent in those 10 calls a day. That's an example of it. They say in terms of closing rate, 80% of sales, let's say, are closed on that 5th to 7th call, that 5th to 7th follow-up rather. Right, so you contact one person 5 to 7 times, your closing rate goes up by 80%. So again, consistency is I'm going to call these 10 people every day, and maybe I'll follow up with these other 10 that I called yesterday, or whatever the case is, because you got to make sure you reach out to those people that 5 to 7 times. So that's an example of consistency. Now, going back to point 1, consistency doesn't care about our feelings, right? And to illustrate this, I'll talk about a story I heard from Your World Within, Eddie Pinero, years ago. And it's a father telling his child that there's 2 wolves inside of you. One of them is the bad wolf and one of them is the good wolf. And the child asks the father, well, which one wins? The father says, whichever one you feed. Whichever one you feed. Therefore, if I decided to, you know what? Yeah, Kadeem, you had a hard week. Yeah, your head's been hurting certain days because of lack of sleep. And I'm not condoning this, by the way, get your proper sleep. But your head's been hurting because of improper sleep, and you've been going to bed late, waking up early, and you can stay in bed and sleep for another hour if you want to. Do that. That's me feeding the bad wolf because I'm accepting my excuses. Or I can just get myself up, get moving, and realize that, hey, if I go to the gym now, I get up, I pray, and so on, it might take me an hour and a half, 2 hours, which I still have time before my meeting where I could take a quick nap if I need to. That's me feeding the good wolf. That's me accepting my responsibilities, and I'm calling it a responsibility because I made the promise to myself. Now it's a responsibility for me to fulfill that promise. I'm not going to feed the bad wolf by falling into my excuses or my good reasons. Let me feed that good wolf and starve the bad wolf. So point one again, consistency does not care about your feelings, unfortunately, right? And if you haven't gotten it by now, we're talking about the consistency code, all right? Winning through relentless persistence. Now, that is point one. And now, a word from our sponsor. If you want to learn to amass your wealth in stocks, bonds, real estate, in commodities, if you want to learn how to protect your wealth or transfer generationally down the line in the way that you want it to be transferred, this book right here is a must read for you. The Legacy of a Silver Spoon, Managing Wealth and Relationships by Al Compton. You must get yourself a copy because you need it. If you want to do anything that I just mentioned, without reading this book, you're not going to be able to do it in the way that you want to get it done. You might not even know that there's different types of trust or which type of trust you need. This book will help you in determining that. You might not even know what a stock is or what a bond is. This book will teach you every piece of information you need to know financially to get you from where you are to where you want to be. Go ahead and click that link in the description to get yourself a copy. Point two, compound effort. You've heard this before probably. Aim to become 1% better every day. If we aim to become 1% better every day, 1% isn't a lot. It's hard to see. It's difficult to see a 1% change. But over time, over 30 days, you're 30% better. How easy is it to see that change? Over 6 months, 1% better every day, you do the math. Right? And to illustrate this point, I'll talk about Albert Einstein, first of all, who says, I think it was the 8th or 9th wonder of the world. I forgot how many there were at the time, but he says compound interest when it comes to finances is the 8th wonder or 9th of the world. Because over time, of course, compound interest is something that we'll talk about in another episode, but I'll tell you now. So simple interest, long story short, you're getting 10% on $100. That means you're getting $10. The next month you have $110 in there, but you're still getting $10 because your contribution was only $100. Compound interest says you're going to get that $10 you made from that first month. It's now calculated into that next month, meaning you're getting 10% of $110 instead of just 10% of your contribution. Quick explanation there. Hopefully it makes sense for you. If not, look it up. But compound interest means your efforts compound over time. MJ, Kobe, Dwayne Wade, Eric Thomas, Michael Phelps, these are all people who are or were operating at a very high level. They're known as some of the greats. What they did was they followed consistency. Every day they were working out. Every day they were shooting shots, right? I don't know necessarily about how often Michael Phelps will train, but it shows that he is consistent in what he does. He trains regularly, right? I've heard about the way he envisions his training, and it's on another level. Eric Thomas, TGIM, thank God it's Monday. He would, when he first started out, right? Rather, I don't want to say that because he started out behind closed doors, but when he first became, let's call it more popular, is when he was releasing an episode every week on a Monday. Every Monday he would release a video on YouTube called Thank God It's Monday, right? And that is what helped to lead him to becoming let's call it a world sensation And if you don't know who Eric Thomas is, type his name in Google. He's the top motivational speaker in the world. And to me, that title is a little belittling because he's so much more than that. But he's the top motivational speaker in the world. And he became popular again, a world sensation, through releasing one video a week on Mondays. A lot of people have followed this formula, this format to expand their platforms as well. But now he's doing, of course, he's, like I said, world sensation, right? But I only bring all of these people up to show you and explain and illustrate the power of consistency. You will not win without consistency. You will not become great without consistency. You will not become great without consistency, right? Because that, again, 1% difference over time, it shows, right? Now, some strategies for consistency. One, set clear goals and small milestones, right? Because there's 2 points on a map. One of them is where you currently are, which some of us have a good idea of where we are. And that second point is where you want to go. The only way to know how to get to where you want to go is to know those 2 points and then plan your route. That's the only way. If you don't know those 2 points, you're not going to get to where you want to go. Because every decision you make, every action you take should be getting you closer to this destination. But if you don't know the destination, you're not getting any closer. This decision is bringing you where? Closer to which destination? We don't even know the destination. So we definitely need to define that destination. And once we define it, set that clear goal, it'll help us to go with number 2, our second strategy, which is to automate and set up a system to help us get there. If you want to drink more water in the morning, put a cup or a bottle of water beside your bed before you go to bed. If you want to drink more water during the day, bring your bottle of water with you everywhere you go. Sip it throughout the day, right? Stop buying pop everywhere. You don't need to because you have your water bottle with you. If you want to work out more frequently or whatever the case is, put it in your calendar. A lot of us, for me, for example, my calendar rules my day. I put everything in my calendar for the most part. So schedule it in, put some time in there, right? When it comes to finances, what you can do is if you know you want to save $100,000 in the next, let's say 5 years, reverse engineer it. You know the goal is $100,000 in the next 5 years. If you reverse engineer it, you will figure out how much you need to save monthly, bi-weekly, which is every paycheck usually, or monthly, or weekly, depending on your pay schedule, right? And then you just automate it. Set it up, automatic transfers into your investment account. Therefore, you are staying consistent and you don't have to do anything. You automated it. So create a system and automate it, which leads us into a little bit number 3. Automation will help you also to manage distractions. Creating a system will help you to manage distractions. Because if we're not managing distractions, there's a lot of distractions, a lot of good reasons and good excuses that come up in life. We will allow those to feed our bad wolf and to distract us from whatever goal, purpose we had intended for that day, that hour. Now, of course, this is outside of emergencies, but there are things that are not an emergency that we act as if they are. But really, we're just using it as an excuse, and we're accepting the excuse to feed the bad wolf instead of feeding the good wolf. All right. Number 4, because 3 again leads me into 4, which is accountability. If we are not managing distractions, or we're not focused on the goal, having an accountability partner will help us to stay focused. And an accountability partner could be a friend, it could be a family member, it could be a spouse, it could be your children even, right? It could be somebody you met online. You can go online and there's a bunch of Facebook groups and so on. I'm sure you could find somebody, right? An accountability partner will help to keep you focused. If you don't just need one, right? If you have one, great. But if one's not doing it, you can get 2, 3, 4, however many you need. But at the end of the day, you've got to be accountable to you. Because like I said to myself yesterday, Saturday, when I was struggling, I said, I have to remind myself that, wait, Kadeem, winning and consistency do not care about your feelings. Get up out of bed. I had to shut down my thoughts. I had to shut down that bad wolf and feed that good wolf so I can spring up out of bed and hit the ground running. Accomplish what I need to accomplish for that day. Right? So my call to action for you, and hopefully you internalize this. My call to action for you was pick one area, just one area of your life, one key area that you are going to be consistent in starting today. Because if you say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, you've heard this, but I'll just reiterate it for you. Tomorrow never comes. So pick one area, key area of your life where you're going to be consistent and start today. And if you have an area of your life that you decide you're going to be consistent in today, drop it in the comments below. I'd love to support you, and I'm sure the community would love to support you. Drop it in the comments. That's a sense of accountability as well. All right. So hopefully this was helpful for you. Hopefully you got something out of this. Kadeem here, and I'll see you in the next one.